Bradley, as the media guy, granted you're the independent media guy, I get asked a lot. You name it, NBC, political, like they call it. What about the qualifications? And I said, okay, can we just talk about the qualifications? Because I get it. You guys want to talk about how qualified they are. And I said, well, listen, let's just talk about this. I mean, Pete Hegseth, let's see, 2 Bronze Stars, deployed to Gitmo, Iraq, Afghanistan, ran a VSO, Veteran Service Organization, Concerned Veterans for America. God, is that not qualified? And I go, let me just look at the bar that we're up against. Let's see. In the Biden administration, Dennis McDonough ran the VA. He's not a veteran, never served in the military, never worked for a veteran service organization, has no experience in healthcare or mortgage lending, the 2 biggest services that the VA does. Javier Becerra, the Secretary of Health and Human Services, not a doctor. He's actually a lawyer. He was the Attorney General of California, so I guess he sued people in healthcare, but has no background in healthcare. Jared Bernstein, the chairman of the Council of Economic Advisors, is not an economist, but his degree is actually in music, so that's helpful. Pete Buttigieg, the transportation secretary, has no transportation background. As I wrote in my book, Radical Nation, he oversaw 63 buses as mayor of South Bend, Indiana. And when he was nominated, President Biden said, we're excited to have the first LGBTQ person to run a department, and he's really young. That apparently was his qualification. I mean, I can go on and on and on, but I just find it funny that suddenly everybody's found Jesus when it comes to qualifications, but we didn't seem to worry about that, Bradley. Is that odd to you?
Well, I mean, Pete Hegseth has never lost a war. I think Lloyd Austin has he's lost multiple wars. So listen, bad experience is not better than no experience at all. And when you're in an executive position appointed by the president, your number one qualification is the will to do what the American people has ordered you to do, and that is effectuate the president's agenda. Going back to what Natalie said real quick, Sean, I can't help but notice a headline in The Hill today as Hegseth makes his rounds around Capitol Hill saying that senators, despite the sexual assault allegations, are coming to Pete Hegseth's aid, saying, this was thoroughly investigated and never prosecuted. But at the same time, Senate Republicans aren't extending that to Matt Gaetz. Why aren't they? Well, the reason that they're not extending it to Matt Gaetz is because the legislature has been complicit in forking over power to the administrative state. And Matt Gaetz is their number one threat to blow it up. They're not extending Matt Gaetz that courtesy because they're still mad that he sowed quote-unquote chaos within Republican ranks by getting rid of Kevin McCarthy, who consistently sided with Democrats on the most important issues the country faced during the Biden administration. And so my question for the Senate is, why aren't you extending the same courtesy that you're extending Hegseth to Matt Gaetz? Because Matt Gaetz is actually the one with the political will. From the appointees that I've seen, he is the one who has the most political will to effectuate the president's agenda in the most important role, which is oversight of the DOJ and the FBI. The Biden DOJ didn't prosecute Matt Gaetz. Is the Biden DOJ shy about going after political opponents? No, of course not. I mean, this whole qualification game is BS. The reason that Mayor Pete still has a job despite having a failed presidential campaign, like 7 electric Chargers and $1 zillion out the door, is because what? He's loyal to the Biden administration agenda, a radical climate change agenda that wants to change the way we do transportation in the United States, that wants to lock you in your pod and make sure you don't have a diesel truck. That's why he still has a job.
Sean, if you think about it, the Biden cabinet is the greatest gift the Trump transition team ever had. From Buttigieg at Transportation, Becerra, Health and Human Services, Mayorkas at DHS, and let's not forget Granholm, that energy expert who's now running the Department of Energy. Absolute disaster. But there's another side of that coin. Look at the handful of people who you could argue had the perfect resumes and perfect credentials to run their departments. Merrick Garland at DOJ, Janet Yellen at Treasury, and Antony Blinken at State. Foggy Bottom is a disaster. The world is on fire thanks to Antony Blinken's horrible diplomacy. Look at Janet Yellen and inflation and Treasury. She's never been able to communicate a clear message. And please, the Justice Department, sadly, is in such bad shape and has lost so much trust with the American people. Merrick Garland, frankly, I think the man should be indicted for some of the things that he's done. So Biden has done everything that he possibly can to take all of those weapons out from the confirmation hearings for Trump's cabinet, they're only going to be able to go after them personally.
That may be the most brilliant observation you've ever made. I literally wrote it down as you said it because I thought to myself, you know what? I'll give you credit. I had not gone in that direction, Larry O'Connor.
Sean, you've stolen so many of my ideas and talking points over the years that I appreciate you at least acknowledging this one that you're going to credit me for. Thank you for that.
Anyway, I was surprised by that comment, but just so you guys know, I am not surprised anymore if the power goes out because I have a Patriot Power Generator 2000X in my house. A lot of things surprise people in Washington, but don't be surprised. Actually, last night, just as a side note, the power here in our nation's capital or around it, at least here in Virginia, went out for a little while. I don't have to worry because I have a Patriot Power Generator 2000X in my house. It powers the most powerful things, refrigerator, tablets, TVs, you name it. It's portable. You can bring it in the house. You don't have to be outside trying to set this thing up or worried about gas, fumes, running to the gas station. It runs off a free solar panel that comes with it. How awesome is that? So if you don't want to be caught by surprise like a lot of Republicans were by the choice of Matt Gaetz, then get a Patriot Power Generator 2000X in your house. Perfect for Christmas, by the way. If you've got a friend or a neighbor that you worry about, get them one of these. If you live in a rural community where you worry about getting to a gas station, whether it'll be open or not, or whether the credit card machine will work because of an electrical grid hit, get one now. They sell out all the time. So if you're going to wait for, the holidays, it's going to be too late. Get it now. Go to 4patriots.com/Spicer. The numeral 4, patriots.com/Spicer, and you get the free solar panel with it so you don't have to worry about getting gas. All right. Let's get back to this discussion. I want to say one of the things that I find intriguing, Natalie, and I tweeted this out a while ago. When Marco Rubio, Larry brought up foggy bottom, which is very Beltway speak for the State Department, for people who don't know. I mean, as a swamp creature, that's where he comes from. But when it comes to the State Department, Rubio gets picked. There's a vacancy now. Now you've got Ron DeSantis able to pick somebody. Now, I said when this happened, he's basically got three choices, right? He could step down as governor and Jeanette Nunes becomes governor and appoints him. And I think that DeSantis needs somewhere to go because he's term limited. 2, he appoints a caretaker like his current chief of staff. Or 3, he appoints a Trump. Don, Laura, they take the seat. They become immediately not just the senator, but a potential running mate for J.D. Vance in 2028. I know this is inside baseball with Florida, but it's got massive national political implications. What do you think is the smart move? Because I guess my view is DeSantis has got to be very careful about his future with this pick.
I think the right move is if one of the Trump family members wants it. I think that they should get it. I think particularly Lara Trump. I think her heading the RNC. I think we saw a really robust and successful election integrity operation go on this election cycle. Obviously, they weren't able to steal it. And I think that that's an issue that's extremely compelling and I think of primary concern for much of the Republican base. So I think there's sort of a natural affinity there. But at the end of the day, I think it, comes down to whether or not Lara Trump or Don Jr. or Eric Trump or whomever may want the case. I hope it certainly doesn't start a, civil war kind of 2024 primary style, Trump camp versus DeSantis camp, because I don't think that infighting is worth anything. And I will just add one quick note on the Rubio appointment to State Department. I would say of all the nominees, that's the one that I'm probably most, I would say, disheartened by, particularly because I think the State Department is so crucial for fighting the global censorship kind of war campaign. And I think you need someone who is not establishment and is willing to look down some of the most entrenched bureaucratic types, not just domestically, but globally too, and to tell them that we are not going to stand for these covert, clandestine information warfare operations that the American people hate and view as such an affront to the First Amendment.
I do wonder if Laura Trump ends up in that seat, Bradley. I mean, I think to myself, because there is a nice little progression that happens, right? Suddenly JD runs, he needs a running mate. You got someone from Florida, you got a Trump, you continue. I mean, it does. It's like, that Tetris game. The pieces all fit together nicely.
Yeah. Here's the weird thing about big red state politics is it doesn't work as a singular unit. You can see this most clearly in Texas, where Abbott and Paxton and the Cornyn world are all at each other's throats. Florida's solidly red now, and what do you see emerging in this solidly red state? A series of red state fiefdoms. You have kind of the DeSantis camp, as Natalie said. Of course, you have the Southern White House, Mar-a-Lago. dictating a lot of what goes on in the state of Florida. But then you also have, the Scott faction and the Rubio faction. And all of these factions working together is rare. But with the mandate that President Trump just got, it might be smart for DeSantis to signal not only a willingness to work with the other factions, right? Because Rubio faction's kind of moving into the State Department. DeSantis, his faction could be rendered powerless in 2026 when he terms out. If DeSantis goes forward with a Trump pick, it could kind of unite that. I guess it's kind of little Game of Thronesy. It could unite the kingdom behind this pick in Laura Trump or Don Jr. I do think that it's possible DeSantis goes forward with appointing his own wife, Casey DeSantis, as a placeholder for him to potentially come in.
Oh, whoa. Mind blown.
Yeah, I didn't see that coming.
No.
I think
Bradley with the corner shot coming in. Boom.
I think it's completely possible. I think it's within the realm of possibilities. And DeSantis knows that his wife is one of his most powerful political allies. And if he's worried about maybe some of his interests not being heard in Washington, he might send his own wife up there. I still think that Donald Trump Jr. might be best for the coalition in Florida moving forward, or a Laura Trump or whatever. But it could get pretty spicy. And let's not forget, Ohio has the same problem now.
Yeah.
Bradley's onto something here in that, your assumption here, Sean, that DeSantis might nominate Laura Trump so that it helps J.D. Vance. That assumes that DeSantis has given up running for president in 28. If he still wants to run for president in 28, why in the hell would he do something to help J.D.
No,
Vance?
I agree with you. But I also, so I think what you're touching on, Larry, is what I've been trying to figure out myself.
Yeah.
How does he do the dance where he appoints somebody that keeps MAGA world happy?
Right.
So keeps his options open, because he doesn't need to start the fight right now. He's got 2 years to go, and then he needs to be able to stay relevant. And if he pisses off Trump team again, I think you're on to something that I think is important.
This is his first move. Basically, what we're about to hear from Ron DeSantis about who the new senator, the appointed senator from Florida is his first move for 28. So read whatever he does through that prism. Unless Ron DeSantis decides, you know what, I had my shot, it didn't work, I'm a young man, maybe I'll just go to the Senate. And I'll be a senator from Florida for a couple of terms, and then I can regroup and maybe run, when things are different and we're not living in Donald Trump's world. That might be what he ends up doing.
I think you're right, though, that I don't like this caretaker thing in Florida for the reasons that Bradley was articulating. If they put a caretaker in, then there's going to be a primary. That's the whole deal. You agree that you won't run. We'll make you a U.S. senator, and you have to leave that's the handshake agreement that they make. I think that you end up having a bloodbath on the right, kind of for the same reason that these warring issues kind of start to come out. I want somebody that actually will use the 2 years to be ready to run, because not everyone has Rick Scott's money. So that's kind of what I think in this. All right, I want to, for a reason that I'm going to explain. Here's the last thing I want to do before winners and losers. There's a great op-ed right out today in the Wall Street Journal from Vivek Ramaswamy and Elon Musk talking about this Doge thing. And I got to tell you, I'm super impressed with it. And the reason why is that it's so easy to say, oh, we're going to cut government spending and we're just going to get waste. These guys attack the problem basically saying, hey, Swamp, I know you. I know what you're going to try to do. We've thought about you. We know how we're going to get around you. We know how we're going to be effective. And it's, to me, the way they lay out the problems with our current government and how much waste and inefficiency and duplicity exists is excellent. And I felt like for a while I was waiting to see, you mentioned the first move from DeSantis, but Natalie, this to me, this effort to bring efficiency to government and effectiveness, I think is really real.
Yeah, look, back in 2016, right, the turning point slogan was big government sucks. And if you think about how much the world has evolved since then, it's not just big government, right? It's big food. It's the military industrial complex. It's, big government weaponization, right? All the things that I'm sure independently everyone who's sitting on this panel has kind of sort of faced firsthand. And I think that Doge, which I'm also, I guess, worth pointing out that I believe Marjorie Taylor Greene is now going to be chairing a congressional subcommittee working kind of hand in hand with Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy, but it represents, I think, the concept, the idea, which I think sort of gets back to even more broadly the discussion that we were having about the idea of these, nominees not being qualified. they were qualified if the goal was to destroy the United States of America, right? If they were dealing not necessarily questions of incompetence versus intentional destruction of this country. And I think that is what that Doge op-ed and more precisely the mindset of Vivek and Elon represent, which is the idea that this isn't just an issue that the government is needlessly doling out trillions of dollars to address problems. Yeah, the waste, fraud, and abuse is part of it, but it's also a systemic multi-trillion-dollar weaponization of the federal government against the American people. And that's what they're going after, right? The wokeness, the waste, fraud, and abuse stuff, that's important. But that's sort of the sideshow. That's the shiny toy. They understand, I think, with an inside baseball perspective, how the levers of power have really been turned on the American people.
Rob, Bradley, I'm sorry, how they sell this matters. Like, I think if they come out like they did in the op-ed and give the American people a sense that, hey, your tax dollars are being wasted. To Natalie said, your government is weaponized. We're going to fix this. And here are 5 examples that make sense to every American. They're going to win. If they come out and sort of talk in esoteric ways, I think they're going to lose us real quick.
Yeah, and I think the other error that they could make is being too detailed too quickly. Don't reveal everything in your hand. Yeah. Make sure that you go after him like Trump went after ICE. Remember, everyone was like, Trump has no plan to destroy ICE. Well, Trump got in there and he did it quickly. Why? Because he didn't show the bureaucracy too much so that the bureaucracy could work against him in that field. One thing that I think is interesting about the Doge committee is I fielded this question from a friend who said, maybe efficiency isn't the right principle. And my stance is, no, I think actually efficiency is the right principle. His argument was, well, if we make government more efficient, then they will more efficiently censor us, for example. I said, no, actually, part of efficiency is ensuring that a system does what it is meant to do. A system that does not fulfill its purpose is inherently not an efficient system. And Natalie laid out that our system of government is not meant to have as she said, a multi-trillion-dollar effort to censor the American people. That's not part of efficiency, right? They're not going to be working to make that more efficient. It actually goes back to first principles of constitutionalism, of self-government, of the ability for our people, the American people, to decide their own future and have their politicians reflect that and build the bridges, build the infrastructure needed to usher in this golden age that we've been talking about. So efficiency, I think, is the right principle. It's just making sure that we always keep in context that an efficient system is one that is true to itself. And the American system right now is not true to what the founders thought.
Larry, can I? Yeah. We always end Thursdays, and we're running short on time with winners and losers for the week. Who do you think has won the week? Who do you think has lost the week?
Well, I'll tell you, it actually tags into the last topic that we just hit on, because I think the winner is the American people, because Russ Vought was just named the director of OMB.
Yes,
he's the missing cog here for the Doge committee. Everything that Musk and Ramaswamy do will be filtered through OMB. Russ Vought has been there. He's the only carryover from the last term. He already knows how OMB works, which is one of the huge roadblocks for new directors of OMB. He's going to hit the ground running, and he will be ruthless. So I think that's a great.
We'll have to do a whole show on that. This is, if you want to know what really makes Washington work, it's OMB. Larry's right. Who's the loser, Larry? We got
the loser of the week is our friends Joe and Mika and Rachel Maddow and everyone over there on MSNBC, because Comcast is selling them off.
Oh, you're getting into
the NBC News brand. It's fabulous.
Scary. We're thinking the same way. Bradley, who do you got? Winner and loser, quick.
Winner, Trump dance. It's everywhere, folks.
Let me show this. I'm going to put this on the program. Everyone's doing the Trump dance. I'm glad you brought that up. Oh, my God.
Everybody's doing it. Loser, I hate to say it, Sean. Makes me sad. I wish him a happy recovery. Jay Leno.
Jay Leno is all bruised up. The left side of his face is black and blue. His eye is swollen shut. And look at his injured wrist.
Don't expect me to believe that you fell down a hill at the Hampton Inn in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Sir, you're too beat up. We can help you out, Jay Leno. Okay. Let me know what we need to do.
Blink twice, Jay, and we'll know that you need it.
Wow, I didn't twice now. Bradley with the outside the box, I didn't see this coming thing. All right, Natalie Winters, land the plane.
I guess I'll be basic. The winner is still President Donald J. Trump. He still enjoys his massive mandate. And I'd say the loser, I was going to say MSNBC, but I guess we'll go with their twin sister, and that is the Resistance 2.0, which I think is struggling to lift off the ground.
All right, I think a lot of we've danced around this a little bit. Another great pick of President Trump as my winner. Free speech and big tech is because of the appointment of Brendan Carr as the chairman of the FCC. This is huge for us, for the movement, and so I'm excited about that. He is a winner for free speech, for cracking down on big tech and their censorship. The loser of the week, and I'm going to expand this because I did have it's not just MSNBC and Comcast spinning them off, and therefore Mika and Joe also being losers, but it's also the cuts at the Washington Post, CNN talking about slashing salaries, the big media, the people that got it wrong are all, I mean, by the way, I'll show this video now real quick. Sunny Hostin, her hostage video on The View. Take a look at this.
How could you nominate someone with allegations of child trafficking trafficking across state lines and having sex with a 17-year-old? My understanding, further on in the interview, they discussed the fact that once he finds out that she's 17, he stops having sex with her.
Sonny, you have a legal note.
I do have a legal note. Thank you, Whoopi. Matt Gaetz has long denied all allegations, calling the claims, quote, invented, and saying in a statement to ABC News that this false smear following a 3-year criminal investigation should be viewed with great skepticism, that DOJ investigation was closed with no charges being brought.
We'll be right back.
I mean, hey, Siri,
The
what does
best.
a hostage video look like? That's what it looks like, folks. But yeah, it is amazing. The media lost big this week. Anyway, guys, amazing panel. Thanks for staying with us and covering all this. Yeah. All right, Natalie, come on.
Come on, Natalie.
There we go. Well, if you enjoyed this content, make sure to like this video, subscribe, and click the notification bell to get more.